Hi everyone, this is a walkthrough video for the 1511 exam environment. So when you get to the exam, you should see a window like this pop up, typing in your ZID and typing in your password. Note that you won't be able to bring your password in written down on a piece of paper or anything like that. You do need to memorize it. And once you type in your password, it might take a second to get into the environment. That's fine, that's normal. It'll probably happen in the exam and the delay might even be longer than that. That's fine. When you get there, you should see a Help on Keys window pop up, and you will also see the spec for the exam. So let's drag this over to the side, see if we can resize this window a little bit. There we go. It might be a little bit tricky to resize windows, but you'll be able to do it. Okay, so here is the window, which you can resize once you get the bottom of it, and Help on Keys. So we have the middle mouse button will paste any highlighted text, which we'll see later on. The right mouse button will bring up the menu. So if you right click on the blue background, you get this menu option, which we'll go through a little bit later. Quickly, we'll have a look at the spec. So at the moment, this is the practice exam. When you get into the environment, naturally, it will be the actual exam. All of this information up the top is going to be exactly the same. I would recommend familiarizing yourself with it before you hit the actual exam. Time is precious. Make sure that you don't see this for the first time in the actual exam. We give you a distribution for the questions, the marks, what the questions are going to be. So the first 4 questions are hurdles. If you make the window wide enough, you also get the questions down the side. Here we go. So first 4 are hurdles, next 4 are debugging sort of questions, and then you have some harder questions. So if we scroll down and have a look at some of the questions, we see question 1 tells you the dot difficulty, and we can see down the side that the questions all have different dot difficulties. It also tells you if it's a hurdle, so question 1 through 4 are hurdles. We have some examples, we have some information, stuff on testing. We then have some more examples and a whole list of assumptions, then an auto test command, a submit command, and a show submissions command. So you don't have access to the 1511 submissions page. So to check that all of the questions that you've done have been submitted, you can run this command, which we'll see a little bit later. If you scroll down to a non-hurdle question, like question 5, you'll see that it doesn't have the grey text that the hurdle questions do. So onto the menu items. So if we right click, if for whatever reason you close the questions, you can reopen them by clicking this link and they pop up. You've also got access to the 1511 course website. Note, you don't have access to submissions, you won't have access to the forum because that needs multi-factor authentication, and you don't have access to lecture recordings. You have access to the notes, you have access to the codes, you do not have access to the actual YouTube videos. You can also look at solutions. So if you want to see solutions from week 5, you can do that. Open them up, scroll down to a specific question, and have a look at the sample solutions. I would recommend familiarizing yourself with the 1511 website so you know exactly where the resources are if for whatever reason you need to find them, rather than just sort of scratching around the website in the middle of the exam. You can also open up a terminal, and if we type ls, we see that we have all of the questions loaded in and a compiled program from a different attempt. We can close that. And then you have your editors. So VS Code is what we would all be familiar with. If for whatever reason VS Code doesn't work, gedit is your second best bet. So we can open up VS Code, and we'll come back to that in a second. You have a web browser, which you won't really be using because you don't have access to the internet, but that's what all of this is running Chromium. You also have a clock, an analog one if you want, because there's a digital one down here. You can have a calculator as well. You're not allowed to bring a physical calculator in, but you can use this if for whatever reason you need a calculator. Just close those. And Help on Keys, which is just that window there. Then if you have a different keyboard layout to QWERTY, you can change it to one of these two. And if you want to switch around the buttons on the mouse, you can also do that. There's also a screen resolution and magnifier, which you can use if you want. And a logout to use at the end of the exam. Make sure you're familiar with how to get this, as soon as the exam finishes, you'll be asked to log out straight away. So if we have a look at VS Code now, make this window a little bit bigger, we can add a terminal to the bottom of VS Code, and we can see that all these questions are included along the side, which is great. So if we open up one of the hurdle questions, for example, you can see all of that starter code is in there and lines up with the first question. We have a look at something like question 5. We can try to compile it. Let's go prac q5.c, and we can compile that into program, and we get these error messages. So DCC works like normal. The error messages, the warnings, all of that will stay the same. You get all of that from DCC in the exam. What you don't have access to is DCC help, and you also won't have access to auto test help, but all of the DCC features that you know and love will be available in the exam. You can use the terminal like normal if you want as well, and if for whatever reason you just think that your code is broken beyond repair and you really just need to start over, so let's say that we delete all of question 1 accidentally, we can go back to the exam and scroll down to the bottom, and there will be a link to say refetch the starter code for this question, and we can open that up. We can highlight the whole thing, copy it, click on the window, and then hit the middle button on the mouse to paste everything in at once. Or you can use Control-V. And then it's all back in there. And that is it for the exam run through. Good luck.